Welcome to the True Grime Stories podcast, where in every episode, we'll unravel a new mystery of cleaning business transformation from a grimy mess to a great success. Join me, your host, Jeannie Henderson, as together we dig up cleaning business secrets that you've been dying to know. Well, hello, everyone out there in the cleaning business world. I'm excited for our next episode of True Grime Stories and really excited to introduce our guest today, where we can investigate her amazing True Grime story. Our guest today is Theresa Kolbus. She is the owner of Dust Devils in Indianapolis. I always have trouble with that word, Indiana. And Theresa started her cleaning business back in 2014 with a best friend. She was also working another job as a bartender at that time. So she faced a lot of early challenges, but started hiring some employees eventually. And in 2018, she took a big jump and joined Cleaning Business Fundamentals. And she shifted from doing everything herself to hiring staff. And in 2021, she was running the business remotely. So she's been running her business remotely since 2021. She sold her house, bought an RV, and now enjoys a nomadic lifestyle while managing her business. Isn't that amazing? So welcome, Theresa. We're so glad you're here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I know people are dying to hear your story after that intro. They're like, what? She lives in an RV? And actually, everybody, she is in her RV as we speak. So I love that. I love the map behind you, kind of you get to go everywhere. And your business is in Indianapolis, but where are you today?
I'm in Ridgeway, Colorado currently. So it's kind of near Telluride and Ouray and between Durango and Grand Junction.
It sounds heavenly. And so, I know you're running your business remotely, but what are you doing there in Colorado for fun?
A lot of hiking. I was telling Jeannie, I just hiked my first 14,000 foot mountain. So that was a bucket list item this year, and I did it.
Oh my gosh, just so amazing. I saw the photographs and so beautiful. So congratulations on the life you've created. And we know that this doesn't just happen by accident, right? To have a successful cleaning business where you can to grow it to that point where you have that kind of freedom, it takes work. And I talk to a lot of cleaning business owners, and when I ask them, why are you starting a business or why did you start a business? Creating some type of freedom, whether it's financial freedom or time freedom or people freedom, is usually brought up. And so I really wanted Theresa to join us today because I know this is a goal that a lot of people have, and Theresa has accomplished it. But let's go back to the beginning, before when you were first getting started in your cleaning business. We like to call this our grime scene. So what did your grime scene look like? What was your business like when you were first getting started, dealing with lots of challenges, but you knew there had to be a better way? What did your business look like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was bartending and, I was cleaning. I had been cleaning out in the field by myself for a long time. I mean, the first few years of my business, we've been in business for 10 years, was just cleaning. My best friend had moved away. It was just me. I did hire a couple of employees, but I was literally paying them $10 an hour because I didn't know how to have employees. I hadn't, learned how to quote properly. I was charging nothing to clean people's homes. So I was really depending on that bartending job, working, until 5 a.m. after, cleaning up the bar, getting home. I was getting to bed at like 5 a.m. and then cleaning houses at 8:30 or 9 in the morning and training people. And it was just a lot. I couldn't do it.
Oh my gosh. You were really literally almost working around the clock to do that.
Yeah.
So about how big did your business get at that point? Like, how many clients were you able to manage when you were pretty much working 24/7?
Well, I had hired a couple of employees, but I was working in the field with them. I can't remember how many customers we had when I joined CBF. It was definitely less than 100. I mean, I want to say it was probably closer to 50. But, I didn't know how to manage a team in an efficient way either. So it was just a big mess.
I can imagine. What did that feel like? How did you feel at that point about your life and being an entrepreneur?
I was incredibly overwhelmed. I was kind of just running from one thing to the next without thinking about anything. But I was very overwhelmed. I questioned myself as a leader because I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know how to lead. I just knew that, I'd made this decision to grow a business and not just be in the field cleaning by myself. But I didn't know what to do. I was lost and overwhelmed.
Yeah, I can only imagine what that was like. But many of us do start out in the cleaning business. We start our business with the dream of creating something where we don't have to work in it every day. But then once we get into it, it's hard to stop being one of the technicians. We just can't figure out how to get out of the field. But you, like many of our friends in the cleaning industry, have figured it out. So what led to you figuring it out? How to get out of the field, how to grow your business?
Well, getting out of the field, I think for a long time I felt guilty. Like you feel guilty when you're not next to your team working with them because they don't know what you're doing in the office. But we got to a point to where I was in the field and doing, like all of us, doing invoices at night, doing all of the administrative stuff in the evenings. And when I did get out of the field, we were pretty busy. I mean, I hired my first admin shortly after getting out of the field. But I think just letting go of feeling guilty, feeling like you need to explain your absence in the field. A lot of it's mental.
It truly is. I remember my team saying how much they liked it when I would join them on jobs. So I would go out and I would help with the deep cleans and stuff like that. They're like, oh, we love it when you work with us. And so then I would feel guilty when I stopped doing that. Yeah, I get that completely. Now, and you mentioned joining CBF. At what point did you, how did you discover CBF? What happened when you joined Cleaning Business Fundamentals?
Yeah, so I found CBF, Cleaning Business Fundamentals, in 2018. I actually had heard about it well before that point, but I was afraid to join. I didn't think that I could afford it. Debbie Sardone had a one-day seminar at the QDS Summit in San Diego, and it was $90. It was like a full day training for $90. So it was just my flight and my room, primarily that I had to pay for. And I picked a hotel that was nearby, but way cheaper than the host hotel. There was no risk. The risk was really low. And I had never been on a work trip before. I had never received any kind of business coaching or any kind of business education. And after that one day seminar, I knew that I had to join. So I knew that there was so much more to the industry and to this, career that I had never thought of.
Yeah. Many of us have never had a business coach before, but I do remember that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I just found somebody who not only understands what I'm going through, but has found their way out very successfully.
And is so giving. Yeah.
Yes. And Debbie is. She is, some people think she's this big celebrity, but she is just a true cleaning business owner, loving what she does and loving to help other people, find the success that they're looking for. So, well, I'm so glad that you found Cleaning Business Fundamentals and that you've been able to grow your business. Can you share like one or two kind of things that were like groundbreaking in your business that really helped you get to where you are today?
Sure. So I can share one really, really big thing. And that was systemizing everything. So it's a bit, obviously that's fully loaded, but in order to have freedom in your business, you have to have systems for everything. And CBF is one big system, but you can be given this system, you can buy a system, but if you don't actually use it, and and implement, then your system, that's not your system. We all have a system. But having a planned and intentional system for everything really changed everything. Creating systems made most things more predictable, not just for myself, but for my staff, which I think builds trust. Your staff trusts you when you have a system. They trust the system.
Right. People want to know what to expect, right?
Yes, exactly. So creating systems allowed me to take a more hands-off approach in a physical sense. Like you mentioned, I sold my house, I bought an RV, and I live and run my business from it full time because we do have systems. And, sometimes they need to change. So you still need to, inspect what you expect. And when you stop doing that, things will kind of creep up when you're not expecting it. But I would say that building systems and staying on top of them.
Yeah. And that's a really big idea, right? Systems, and we all know that, whether you have developed good systems or you have bad systems, everybody has a system. It just might not be working for you, right? So it's also improving, finding the right system, the proven system, the one that's going to work for your unique business. What's one of those systems that you changed, that you created, a system around it that really, amplified your growth or gave you that ability to have the freedom that you were seeking? Because one of the things that Theresa and I talked about before we came on today was everybody's goal for their business is different, right? Some people just want to have $1 million business. A lot of people say that. I want to have $1 million business. Or some people say, I want to have the biggest business in town. But with Theresa, your goal was a lot different, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. My goal was freedom. And we all have that goal, right? When we start out, and it never ends up being that way. But as far as the system, probably that had the biggest impact to having physical freedom from my business is a system for numbers. So we have a snapshot. So we have our weekly snapshot in CBF, but I have one with my office staff and we fill it out daily. So my, our admin will fill in, how many jobs did we do that day? How many technicians worked? How many job ticket hours were available? How many did we use? So, we're gathering our capacity. We're tracking all these numbers that we're tracking our, skip rate, our capacity. Our salesperson is tracking sales, of course, our revenue, all of our conversions. And we look at this every day. We have a sales tracker where we can see where we are for the month for our conversion rate and our retention rate. And we talk about it every single week. So every week we compile these numbers into a weekly report, similar to our cleaning business fundamentals weekly snapshot. Only we include maybe some more information that's more specific to each role, like, KPIs for our office roles. But being consistent with those numbers and talking about them every single week and what they mean makes all the difference in the world. Because if you're not paying attention to that, you don't know if you have a problem that you need to address. And if you're not there, you need to notice it as soon as you can, as early as possible.
Oh my gosh, I got so excited when you said numbers, like literally. I was like, oh, yes, I'm so excited. We're going to talk about numbers today because as we know, like if we're not watching them, the numbers will get out of control. And so I talk to a lot of cleaning business owners who like they get like this when it comes to talking about numbers. Like if I don't look at them, then they won't be bad. They're afraid to dive in. But if you don't control your numbers are going to control your life anyway. So you might as well get them to a place where you can control them. So I love that sharing about having a snapshot. Some people call it a scorecard.
Okay.
Yeah. And, something that you can look at, a lot of people look at it weekly, but, because you're looking at it daily, you really have your finger on the pulse of your business every single day.
Sure.
And Yeah. And I love how you have your team members kind of splitting up the responsibility of who's in charge of what number. So they have ownership. Everybody has their own numbers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, well, this is a great place to stop. We're going to stop right here for a moment. I love this investigation and what we've revealed as the solution to ending your grime story. So this is so great. Let's stop our interview here for just a moment. And I want to share with everyone a little bit more about what we're talking about when we say cleaning business fundamentals. So let's watch this. Is your cleaning business a grime story? There's no need to stay stuck in the muck because you're not alone. With over 500 active members and more than 500 graduates of our Cleaning Business Fundamentals program, CBF is the #1 cleaning business academy in the world and has created more mop-free millionaires than any program in the industry. Learn more and let CBF take your residential cleaning business from a grime story to a gleaming success. Well, great. I hope everybody is getting excited about learning more about Theresa's her success that she's created from going from having this, business that was such a challenge to now having this freedom-based business. And so, Theresa, you brought up how creating a system for your numbers is one of the keys to you creating your personal time and location freedom, which very few people do, although I think more and more people are doing it today. But what were some of the challenges that you faced as you tried to create this number tracking system, your snapshot, that you could, look at on a daily basis, weekly and monthly?
Sure. So, I think as far as a system for numbers, it's hard to know exactly what numbers you need to pay attention to. CBF does help us, know those numbers that we need to pay attention to, but you can use them in so many different ways. And we need to be consistent with how we're tracking them because, if we look 2 years prior or 2 years down the road, if we're tracking different numbers, we can't really predict what might happen. We can use those numbers, to look back. Why are we doing so bad this month? And just to be able to tell, okay, what changed? Was it our revenue? Was it our number of employees? Is there something that always happens in a specific month? But so I would say being consistent, it was probably the biggest challenge.
Right. And everybody has to buy in, getting the team excited about seeing the numbers too. And what are some ways that you get your team incentivized or excited about this process?
Mm-hmm. So we use Automate Motivate, a platform where our employees can be incentivized for reaching certain goals. But honestly, I think the biggest part is just explaining why the numbers make a difference and knowing what they are. So when if we have an employee who doesn't understand why we're tracking, a certain number, she might feel less inclined to track it. But then when you explain, okay, when we have this number, we can plug it into this number, and this is what this is telling us. So when you actually explain the story that the numbers are telling you, it makes sense to them. And then they become, more excited about the numbers.
That is so true. We have to inspire our team members on the why we do what we do in every regard. If we really want them to own and take responsibility for those things. But you also mentioned something earlier that I think we definitely want to leave with everyone today. And that is you have to inspect what you expect. Can you share a story of one time that you noticed your numbers were off and how you were able to then fix a problem? Can you think of something like that?
Oh, let me think.
I know I just kind of dropped that question on you.
I know.
Or if a number starts to go off, what draws your attention to it?
Well, so we always pay attention to our revenue, right? Revenue is always the number, even if you don't track your numbers. You notice if your revenue is going down. or maybe even your profits. If your paycheck is getting smaller, but your revenue isn't necessarily getting smaller, a bigger number that you need to pay attention to, obviously, are our margins, our overhead margin. This is a situation we've been in where we had lost a pretty significant amount of customers from an employee. That's a whole other story. I think most of us have had that happen, at least once. But, when you have a big loss like that and your expenses are still the same and you haven't had time to, build that base back up, well, what suffers when one margin is bigger than the others? Your profit. And just being able to, just paying attention to that, at least on a monthly basis. We look at our margins every week, and it is hard sometimes because you might have, a bigger expense one week, but, in the grand scheme of a month, that evens out, right? But, if you're not looking at those numbers at all and you're wondering why your paycheck is smaller, well, you need to pay attention to those numbers.
Yeah. Does everyone on your team look at revenue and margins, or everyone on your leadership team?
Just my office manager and I.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, because a lot of times I talk to people who are afraid to let anyone on their team kind of know those numbers. But, I want to encourage people, look at the successful cleaning business owner. You have to allow people to come along and help you with that. You can't do it all alone, especially if you want to have any freedom at all from your business. Sure. There has to be someone else who can help you work on those numbers and improve those numbers and monitor them. And when you give that level of trust to somebody, they take more ownership, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it's when you make a decision as an owner and your team doesn't understand, when you explain you have to explain the reasoning. But one major part of that is also having people who you can trust on your team. And I'm so grateful. I mean, I've got a really great office manager and I trust her with my business. And I think I wouldn't necessarily be in this position if I didn't have an office manager who I could fully trust.
Yeah, that's for sure. And it's building that communication, having strong communication back and forth with your office manager and things like that. And I just love that you are able to do it from the RV that you're in Colorado all the way on the other side of the country. You have been just a beautiful example of what a cleaning business can do to change your life. Did you ever think that this would be the life that you would create, having a cleaning business?
No. No, I mean, most of us didn't grow up wanting to own a cleaning business.
For sure.
I don't even know, before. So my best friend and I started the business together, and her mom cleaned houses. She's an independent cleaner, and my friend had helped her growing up. She's had this business for probably 35 years now at this point. And we just kind of got into it together. I would have never imagined starting a cleaning business, but I definitely wouldn't have imagined running it from an RV. It hasn't even been, my whole life that I realized that people could do this, that you could live in an RV. But once I did meet people who lived in RVs and traveled full time, it was kind of, I had one of those moments like, people can do that? You can do that. And once I realized it, I knew that's what I wanted. And that was my why. And I did it, I made it happen pretty quickly. But it was one of those things that, once I found it, I knew that it was for me.
Well, that is so great. So tell us, where is your business today? How big is your team? What's your plan for the future?
So my plan for the future, it's not to open multiple locations or to grow to, multi-million-dollar business. The most that we've been at is 750. I would like to be $1 million, maybe 1.5 would be great, but I don't, I'm not going to break my back to get there. I I walk 5 miles every day, and a lot of times it's in the middle of the day. And I love that kind of freedom. I love to just be able to go do what I want. And, you know, you could grow to a multi-million-dollar business and have that freedom. But for me, I want that freedom now. I don't want it when I'm, 60, 70.
That's a really great lesson right there. So people who are listening to us today, make note of that. None of us know the number of our days, right?
Yeah.
And we keep waiting. Well, when I get to this point, I will do this thing that I've always wanted to do. And, I'll go to Europe, or I'll, learn this new skill or whatever. And we keep putting it off. And what I love is that you are creating your life, a beautiful life, while you're living it. It's not a someday thing. Yeah. I mean, it's just such an inspiration. And you have been, I haven't told you, but I mean, I just am so inspired by what you do. And I think everybody needs to hear your story, because a lot of people look at being an entrepreneur as, a ball and chain kind of a thing. I've had people say, I can't believe you do that. It's too much responsibility. I don't want to be in charge of all of that, And a lot of people want to work for others for that reason, because they don't want the responsibility. But what you've created is a business where you can have all the rewards of being a creator, of a visionary, being a leader and building a team. And yet you also have the freedom that people think entrepreneurs cannot achieve.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? You said something so important, the someday, I'll do this someday. And everybody says, I want to travel someday, Everybody wants to travel, and who actually does it? And I was in that boat. I always said I wanted to travel, and I didn't, it was always, well, when I get to this point, I will. And, I'm sure for a lot of people, when I get to $1 million business, I will do this. Why not now? I mean, unless, why not now? Is what you really want something you can do now? Or is it really that hard to get to? Or, what we think we need, do we really need to accomplish that goal?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are, we're around 750. We've got 10 technicians and two other office staff. And we're not huge.
Well, I love that you said you have
manageable.
10 technicians. A lot of people probably couldn't believe that you can run a $750,000 business with only 10 technicians.
Yes.
But that is the result of knowing your numbers and
Yes.
optimizing your technicians. You said you watch your number of available hours and then how many you're using every day. And then you're optimizing that number. So, wow, that is so great. Good job.
Yeah. Well, it helps that, houses in Indianapolis aren't huge. So, most of our technicians can do 3 houses a day. So, yeah.
Well, but you can design a business around that, right? If you know, if you build your business with houses that are not gigantic, you can fit more square footage into a day. Actually, a lot of people think to build a successful cleaning business, you have to clean big houses, but that's not true, right? You've proven that you can build a great business without cleaning a bunch of big houses. So you shared about, that you joined Cleaning Business Fundamentals. What's that experience been like for you?
Oh my gosh, I cannot imagine, my life without it. Just the community that we have is amazing. I'm in the pros group.
You have quite a circle of friends, I know, right? You have kind of a group of cleaning business owners that you kind of are friends with. And
yeah, well, I've been in the program since 2018. So 7 years, 6 years, coming up on 7. I mean, it's a long time. And when I started my business in 2014, I mean, most of my business's life has been in CBF. And it's great to have a community to talk to when, things aren't going so great. I've got a great cohort. We do hot seats a couple of times a month, and everybody is so giving with information, and everyone shares and jumps in and makes, I wouldn't say they make your problem theirs, but in a sense, it feels like it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you mentioned
it's great to not be alone.
Yeah, we don't have to go it alone. And I think so many times people think, well, if I'm going to start a business, I'm going it alone. But, you've proven that leaning into a community of, people that other people might consider competitors, but actually we can all help each other grow. One of the things we say is lift as you climb, right? And Theresa is part of the CBF program called CBF Pro. And we have cohorts, so groups, small groups within the CBF Pro that support each other. And I've watched the cohorts working together, and it's a beautiful thing, watching the friendships, but also watching how people support each other and help each other. So I'm glad you shared that, because that's a really important part of your growth, is starting to find your tribe, right? Mm-hmm. So any other advice that you would give a cleaning business owner or someone who's thinking of starting a cleaning business?
Sure. I think that the biggest piece of advice, at least for me, was to find your why. Most of us, I don't think we really have a why. We don't really know why we are doing what we are doing. We might have a business goal, but we don't have personal goals. And I think finding your why, your personal, figuring out what your personal goals are is very important. Keep it top of mind all the time. And then creating a plan for your why is very important. So, we all have goals like, oh, I want to be $1 million business. That's a big initial goal, or I want to be mop free. And being mop free is probably one of the most important goals in your business. But if you don't have a personal goal, then you are working for the goals of your business. Your business isn't working for your goals. Having a personal why, staying on top of it, and then breaking down, what you need to accomplish that into bite-sized pieces, but also not getting too lost in those bite-sized pieces and being able to look at the big picture at the same time is incredibly important. But finding your why is the first step.
Well, that is so great. And I love that we're ending there, because everyone, this is how you get to where you want to go. And one of the things that you said, Theresa, that is so profound is that, we often find ourselves working for our business. We're an employee of our business, which is not what we built it for. Your business was designed to work for you. And so thank you so much for sharing that. That is a great piece of wisdom. And many of us get lost in the weeds, stuck in the muck, and and we just can't see beyond it. So thank you so much, Theresa, for being with us today, sharing your grime story with us and your success story of how you got out of the grime. So we really appreciate that. Thanks for being part of our podcast today. And I want to thank everyone who's watching. And if you would like to know more about cleaning business fundamentals, just check the links in the show notes. Get in touch with us. We would love to learn about your business and how CBF can help you solve your own grime story. Thanks, everybody. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Theresa.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's True Grime Stories. Thanks for joining us in uncovering the secrets of cleaning business success. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and download, and check out our show notes for links and info from today's episode, and to learn more about our sponsor, Cleaning Business Fundamentals. Join us next time as we solve another True Grime story.